Well, I guess the good news for Governor Patterson is that it appears that his numbers have finally bottomed out. The bad news for the governor is that he remains at record low approval ratings with voters. In terms of his job performance, only 18% of New York voters think he's doing an excellent or good job, compared to 81% of voters who think he's doing only a fair or poor job. And when it comes to David Patterson personally, only 27% of voters have a favorable view of him, 60% have an unfavorable view of the governor. Well, again, luckily for the governor, the election is almost a year and a half away, because as things stand right now, David Patterson is not very electable in May of 2009. If the 2010 gubernatorial elections were held today, Andrew Cuomo would beat Governor Patterson in a Democratic primary by a margin of 70 to 17%. And when it comes to the general election, right now, Rudy Giuliani, the former New York City mayor, is beating David Patterson by a margin of 59 to 31%. Well, Andrew Cuomo, the Attorney General right now, would beat former Mayor Giuliani 53 to 41%. Cuomo has maintained a double-digit lead over Giuliani for several months now, and he continues to hold that 12-point lead over Giuliani. Well, what New York voters are telling Siena right now is that 47% of them think that Andrew Cuomo should run for governor in 2010. Only 33% think he should run for re-election as Attorney General. And when we asked voters what they think he will do, nearly 2/3 of voters, 64% of New York State voters, think that Andrew Cuomo will run for governor in 2010. Well, this is clearly an issue very much in flux. As New Yorkers are learning more, hearing more, thinking more about this issue, their views seem to be shifting a little bit. Last month, support for the same-sex marriage bill was fairly strong at 53 to 39%. Right now, it is dead even among New York voters. 46% support it, 46% oppose it. And in the last month, support has eroded most among young voters, women voters, independent voters.
Is this an issue that New Yorkers want to see?
Absolutely, overwhelmingly. More than 3/4 of New York voters don't care whether it has enough votes to pass or not. And Senate Majority Leader Malcolm Smith says he doesn't want to bring the bill to a vote on the floor of the state Senate unless it has enough votes to pass. 78% of New Yorkers say, we don't care if it has enough votes to pass or not, bring it to a vote, let every senator vote yes or no on this bill. Well, right now, voters are desperate for property tax relief. Voters are feeling the pinch economically, and they are looking for any solution they can find. 72% of New York voters, same as last summer, support a property tax cap that would cap their property taxes. 65%, nearly 2/3 of voters, support a circuit breaker, which would limit property taxes to a certain percentage of the homeowner's income. And when Siena asked voters if you could only have one, property tax cap or circuit breaker, virtually even. Circuit breaker has a slim lead over the property tax cap, whereas last summer, the last time Siena asked this question, circuit breaker had a convincing lead over the property tax cap. Sure. Well, the junior senator, Kirsten Gillibrand, remains unknown to nearly half of New York voters. Right now, 33% of New York voters have a favorable view of Kirsten Gillibrand. 21% have an unfavorable view, but nearly half, 46%, don't know enough about the junior senator to have an opinion one way or another. When we looked at how Senator Gillibrand would do in two potential general election matchups next year, right now she has a commanding lead over Nassau County Republican Congressman Peter King. But when she's matched up against George Pataki, the former New York State governor who won statewide election 3 times in New York, dead even. 43% for Gillibrand, 43% for Pataki. Well, Siena asked voters if you could choose today who you want to be governor among the current governor, David Paterson, and the 3 most recent former governors, George Pataki, Eliot Spitzer, Mario Cuomo, who would you want to be governor? Well, it's virtually a dead heat between Mario Cuomo at 31% and George Pataki at 30%. David Paterson, the current governor, finishes last at 11%, and the most recent former governor, Eliot Spitzer, who left after a major personal scandal, he's now getting 20% support among New York voters, and he hits 30% support among young voters.